Now we are going to deep delve into this situation. Javed Rana is joining us once again. He's a political analyst from Pakistan, and we have been talking about the situation with him for a while now. Javed, we have heard the ceasefire. What would you say? What is happening?
Well, I think I've been saying for the last couple of days that given the fact that apartheid Israel cannot withstand the scale of the Iranian missile attacks, the ceasefire is on the card. And this had to happen because Iran is not unarmed Palestinians, Iran is not unarmed Lebanese. So obviously a kind of situation had to be there where everybody could have claimed, which they are claiming, that they have won this war. Now Israel can say, Americans can say, and they are saying it, that since they have destroyed Iran's nuclear facilities, so they have won this war. But on the other hand, what Iran has been saying, that they in fact already enriched material was already shifted away at a safe location weeks before these attacks. So the very reason for which both apartheid Israel and the USA wanted to attack Iran, I think the very victory of which is still disputed because there is no independent evidence so far where we can say that Iran's nuclear facilities were altogether dismantled or, in the words of Donald Trump, obliterated. I think given the fact that these nuclear facilities were deep underground up to 80 meters, and the excess of US-52 bombers, the Buster bunkers, they could have reached up to 60 meters. Israeli planes were managed to go up to 6 meters. So I think it's all doubtful on whether or not both apartheid Israel and the USA managed to destroy Iran's major 3 nuclear facilities altogether. Another evidence is that there has not been any detection of radioactivity, which could have been certainly there had there been a complete dismantling of Iran's nuclear facilities. Now, the possibilities are that the already enriched material was, as I pointed out earlier on, was taken out weeks before, and then there is also possibility that both countries, both USA and Israel, failed to completely destroy them. Now, the bigger question is that the very reason Israel basically came to the ceasefire option through Americans is simply there has been a large-scale destruction in Israel, and that is a qualitatively, not quantitatively. As compared to Iran, the number of the buildings, the number of the military infrastructure, the number of intelligence infrastructure, and the number of other geostrategic installations, I think quantitatively speaking, the damage is more in Iran. But qualitatively speaking, the damage is more in apartheid Israel because their IT infrastructure is a very expensive one. Their military infrastructure is a very expensive one. And then given the fact that during last couple of days, alone Israeli citizens, they have filed their claims with their government to compensate them up to 1.3 billion US dollar. That is just a tip of the iceberg of the scale that the Israeli citizens have suffered from. So, and I think in that context, I think Israel was left with no option but to go for some kind of a ceasefire through the USA. Now, what happened last night in Qatar, I think that was more symbolic. Something I've been telling for the last couple of days that to begin with, Iran may not attack USA for the time being, and if it attacks, it would be more token attack, a symbolic one. Iran had informed Qatar in advance. Iran had also through different channels informed Americans that this attack is going to happen, and Americans, all troops, they had vacated these military bases, and all these missiles, they were all basically blown up right in the air. So there was no human losses. So again, this is essentially a propaganda warfare, but there are some certain takeaways we can say. And that is that now there is a possibility, a greater possibility, Iran is going to be very tough negotiators. It can possibly pull out of NPT, which means that it would not be under any binding rules and regulation of IAEA to put its nuclear installations for inspections. And my understanding is that Iran would certainly go for making a nuclear bombs. It is a matter of time. Part of the reason is that the very core part of it, the already enriched material, is still safe. And even if it has been destroyed, over the period of time, Iranian nuclear scientists have spread the knowledge and know-how and the skill on how to make a nuclear bomb is a widespread. So given the fact that there is a tension between Israel and Iran, and there are ideological agenda on the both sides, I foresee that these hostilities would continue. But one message has been given to Israel and both the USA, that the regime change operation in Iran is something easier said than done. As a matter of fact, the real agenda of Israel and the USA was to basically go for a regime change operation, to divide Iran into different administrative units. But given the fact that the Iranian regime over the last 4 or 5 decades, they have made it sure that there is no tangible, meaningful opposition inside Iran. Therefore, there was no required manpower by the opposition parties to go for some kind of militant activities that could not have taken place. Therefore, I think for the face saving, both apartheid state and both USA, they are claiming victory. I think Iran has managed to basically, through its missiles attacks, create optics where one can say that Iran has an edge over its missiles technology as compared to Israel. And Israel has an edge so far as its air superiority is concerned in terms of its fighter jets, because they had straight away basically attacked Iran. Iran's air defense system was not able to fully detect it. But the bigger problem for Iran is about the Mossad's network. I think that is a good network, because with that network, Israel managed essentially to assassinate the top military leaders of Iran, and that was a awe and shock kind of situation. Iran recovered from that situation, and I think that is why both Israel and the Americans decided to wind it down.
Well, when you consider all of these like that right now, what would you expect from the future between the relationship with Israel and Iran? Do we expect any normalization, or do we at least expect them to avoid each other enough to not cause any conflicts in the Middle East go further down?
I think there would not be the military confrontation the way we have seen during last 12 days. But certainly there would be continuation of hostilities between two countries. Given the fact that, again, ideologically, both countries have their agenda. Iran wants to expand itself ideologically, and apartheid Israel wants to expand itself territorially in terms of its agenda of Greater Israel, and it has already expanded its territory deep inside the occupied Palestinian territories in terms of occupying more and more territory inside Gaza, and then in West Bank up to, I think, 25 to 30 square kilometer area has already been taken over. 22 new settlements have been announced by the Israeli government. So I think they are expanding within the occupied Palestinian territories, and also in Lebanon they have occupied territory, and from the Golan Heights in Syria, again, around 20 to 25 kilometer territory Israel has already taken over. So Israel is on expansionist spree right now, and the Israeli Prime Minister has been boosting off, saying that under his administration, Israel's territory is expanding, and we know it certainly that there is a map inside the Israel's parliament which include by and large much of the Middle East.
Well, when you say it like that, we hope that there's no escalation happens. But as you mentioned, in 12 days, we have seen barely it going really up. So what would you say about when we shift our focus to Gaza right now? What would you say about what is happening, what's unfolding in Gaza? Do you think that the international focus has been focused on the Iran for so long that we have forgotten what is happening to the Palestinians? And do you think that it is actually beneficial for Israel?
You have touched the very heart of the problem. The core problem is genocide in Gaza. During last 12 days, when this war between Iran and apartheid Israel started up, I think more number of the people in Gaza have been killed. There is a more destruction. There's a more number of people who have died because they didn't have anything to eat. And there were more death traps by so-called Gaza Foundation, the foundation which the Americans and the Israeli intelligence are operating through. Anybody who is hungry, he wants to go and get some food from this Gaza Foundation, some of them would be killed, and that number is 50, 100, they would be killed. Because that is the method in the madness that the apartheid Israel has been operating with. Israel has been telling the world that Iran is a real threat. No, Israel is the biggest terrorist state in the world. It's the biggest threat not only in the Middle East, but also elsewhere in the world. It doesn't want any Islamic nuclear power to stay. Israel is a threat to Pakistan. Israel is a threat to any other Muslim country. It doesn't want any other Muslim country to have better military equipments than that of Israel. So Israel being the biggest threat, it has projected Iran unfairly that Iran is the biggest threat. To the best of my understanding, the core problem is Gaza, something you pointed out. Now, the public attention, the international attention is being deflected in a very systematic manner that Iran since has been supporting Palestinian jihadi groups. Therefore, Iran is the biggest threat. The biggest threat Israel is itself because it is an expansionist state. It has been killing people for no rhyme and reason. It has been conducting genocide because it wants to take over the lands of Palestinians. And their territory is being squeezed every next day. So I think the core problem is the Palestine, and there is international consensus that there has to be a two-state solution. Something Netanyahu has been avoiding. Something is Netanyahu, for right from 1980s, he has been working on to make it sure that there is no two-state solution. And during last 2 years, I think in a very comprehensive manner, he basically joined hands with the Donald Trump. This Ibrahim Accord was there, where some of the Arab states essentially were coerced diplomatically to concede to the Israel's desire to normalize diplomatic ties on its terms and conditions without which means surrendering these Arab countries like UAE, Bahrain's demand to go for a two-state solution. So I think the biggest net loss is to the Palestinians. They are being killed from every corner in the occupied territories. And there is no one to raise their voice internationally. People are desensitized, least concerned about. They were more concerned of the war between Iran and apartheid state, while the more number of the people were being killed in Gaza, something you rightly pointed out. So I think that is the biggest problem. And the problem is that since the international community have joined hand behind the scene or otherwise with the apartheid Israel, they are not willing to go in a manner where Israel could be pressurized to go for a two-state solution. I think now my biggest fear is that Gaza is going to suffer hugely. Israel's focus is going to be on Gaza, and they are creating conditions there. They are trying to expel people from there, and no country in the world is ready to accept them. And that is an unfair game. I believe that since Muslim countries are the spectators, they have least concern of what is happening in Gaza. UAE has been spying in Gaza for Israel. For Saudi Arabia, it is not a bigger issue. When there were attacks in the Red Sea, Saudi Arabia behind the scene was facilitating Israel to divert its trucks, the trade trucks, from Red Sea to Saudi Arabia, and from there to Jordan, from there to West Bank, and from West Bank to the mainland Israel. And in a similar fashion, Jordan is in league has been in league with the apartheid state. Egypt has been in league with the apartheid state. All these missiles attacks from Iran were being intercepted, many of them by Jordan, by other Arab countries. And why? I don't understand. Because they were saying it is a question of their sovereignty. I don't understand. When Israel was attacking Iran, wasn't that at that point of time it was a question of their sovereignty? As a matter of fact, the very bitter, dark reality is that these Arab monarchs are in league with the apartheid Israel. They are their allies. I would also say this because there were also pamphlets which were circulated in Gaza from the air, and those pamphlets were saying that, look, Arab states are our allies. You don't have anyone who will come to rescue you. So it is better to leave Gaza, because this is the reality on the ground, and that's the so dark reality.
Well, that's nicely put, Javed. Thank you so much.
The growing tide of anti-Israel sentiments. What you see behind me is just tip of the iceberg of what is happening in the country. More than half of $52 billion black CIA budget is spent on espionage network in Pakistan. How would you handle it?
The US has looked upon Pakistan as an ally at one point and then as an enemy at the same time.
That is going to be the first legal reason on the basis of which he is going to be instantly ousted by the Supreme Court of Pakistan.
Joining us live, Javed Rana, who's an expert on politics and geostrategic issues.
In the world politics, which is not being driven by any moral principle, it is being driven by the hard geostrategic realities. In a broader picture, more countries would aspire to have nuclear weapons.